Los Angeles, 1947. A city of palm trees, promise, and post-war dreams, where glamour brushed up against corruption and desperation hid behind every shining marquee. But in January of that year, a discovery in an empty lot would shatter the city's illusion of glamour. A young woman's body, cut in half and carefully posed, was found in a quiet neighborhood. Before police could even identify her, the press had already given her a name that would echo for decades.
The Black Dahlia.
The Black Dahlia.
The Black Dahlia.
The Black Dahlia. Her real name was Elizabeth Short, and this is the beginning of her story. I'm Esther, and this is Once Upon a Crime. In this 6-part series, Broken, the Black Dahlia Murder, I'll attempt to uncover the truth behind Elizabeth Short, the real woman behind the myth. Who was she? What drove her to Los Angeles? Why did she become known as the Black Dahlia? And most importantly, why was she murdered? And who killed her? Before she was a mystery, she was Elizabeth. In this episode, we'll travel to the vacant lot where Elizabeth Short's brief life ended, but where the myth of the Black Dahlia began. On the morning of January 15, 1947, a housewife named Betty Bersinger was walking her 3-year-old daughter through a neighborhood in Leimert Park, a new development south of downtown Los Angeles. As she pushed her stroller along Norton Avenue, she noticed something pale in the grass of a vacant lot. She only caught a glimpse and didn't take a second look. Although she couldn't be sure what she'd seen, something told her it just wasn't right. She hurried in the other direction, not wanting her child to see. Instinct also directed her to phone the police.
911, what's your emergency?
The dispatcher radioed a patrol unit at 11 a.m. 2 young officers searched along Norton Avenue until they spotted something lying among the weeds in an undeveloped lot. At first, they thought it was a mannequin. The object lay pale, smooth, and perfectly still. But when they looked closer, they realized it wasn't plastic, it was flesh. The figure was a young woman, naked and cut in half at the waist. There wasn't a drop of blood anywhere. The body had been drained and washed clean. The woman's arms were raised above her head, her legs spread wide, and a deep gash cut across her face, from ear to ear, stretching her mouth into a grotesque smile. When homicide officers arrived, even hardened detectives were shaken. Nothing in their experience compared to what they saw that morning. Detectives quickly realized the murder hadn't taken place there. The ground around the body was spotless. No blood, no drag marks, no struggle. Whoever did this had killed the victim elsewhere, washed her body, and staged it deliberately. Reporters soon crowded the scene. They watched, took photographs, while police were still collecting evidence. In 1947, there were few media restrictions and no public information officers to get between the media and the police. The LAPD and the press worked hand in hand, sometimes literally. Detectives relied on journalists to spread leads, and journalists relied on detectives for stories. The uneasy partnership would soon turn the murder of Elizabeth Short into a national spectacle. As reporters scrambled to identify the victim, they uncovered her name, Elizabeth Short, age 22. Originally from Massachusetts, she'd been living in Los Angeles, working odd jobs and chasing dreams of a life of adventure. But one thing was missing for the press, a headline that would sell papers. Editors smelled a story that could stop traffic, gruesome enough to shock, mysterious enough to sell papers, and happening in the glamorous, decaying heart of post-war Hollywood. They wanted a moniker that was just as glamorous, something unforgettable. The nickname may have been first uttered by a lunch counter clerk at a Long Beach drugstore. The young man told reporters that Elizabeth Short was a frequent visitor to the lunch counter. He described her as a dark-haired beauty often dressed in sheer black clothing and with a flower in her hair. She'd been nicknamed the Black Dahlia by other regular customers because of her appearance, he said. She'd reminded them of a popular film noir from the year before, The Blue Dahlia. It was catchy, cinematic, and tragic, and completely detached from the real woman behind the name. Within 24 hours, the Black Dahlia was a national headline. Within 48, it was a cultural obsession. In the rush to keep the story alive, the press printed everything they could, true or not. Police shared autopsy details, witness interviews, even private letters, and reporters used them all. Elizabeth's life was suddenly open to the world. Her address, her friends, her photographs. Columnists painted her as a woman who lived dangerously, a party girl, a model, maybe even a prostitute. The truth was far less glamorous. Elizabeth was broke, drifting between rooming houses, surviving on charm and resilience. She dated men, yes, but there was no evidence of sex work, no secret life. Still, the myth of the Black Dahlia, the doomed beauty, the femme fatale, was too good for the press to resist. Even now, decades later, many of the same misconceptions are repeated as fact. Let's separate the myth from the truth. Myth number 1. The press invented the nickname, the Black Dahlia. In reality, she may have already been known by that name locally, but it was the newspapers that immortalized it. Myth number 2. Elizabeth Short was a prostitute. No credible evidence supports this. It was pure speculation, born from sexism and the need for a salacious headline. Myth number 3. She couldn't have sex, that she was physically deformed. False. A single autopsy note about a small uterus was twisted into a cruel lie. Myth number 4. The killer was a surgeon or medical expert. The cuts were clean, yes, but forensic specialists later said they didn't require surgical training. Only anatomical knowledge. Myth number 5. The LAPD didn't investigate seriously. In truth, they questioned over 150 suspects and followed hundreds of leads. But with no witnesses, conflicting stories, and the press interfering at every turn, the investigation soon fell apart. These myths endured because they filled in the blanks of the truth left behind. And the more they were repeated, the more they became gospel. By the end of January 1947, Los Angeles was consumed by Black Dahlia fever. Everyone had a theory. Barbershops, diners, even schools buzzed with speculation about the beautiful woman in the lot. The story combined everything post-war America was obsessed with: glamour, violence, and the dark allure of Hollywood. It became the ultimate noir fantasy. A pretty girl from nowhere, killed in a city that promised her everything. That narrative was irresistible, but it came at a cost: the erasure of the real Elizabeth Short. Beneath the myth, Elizabeth was simply a young woman trying to build a life. She was 22. She loved music, dancing, and going to movies. She wrote long letters to friends, dreamed about romance, and wanted to make something of herself. But after her death, she became a symbol. And symbols aren't allowed to be human. They're reshaped to fit the story people want to tell. For 78 years, the murder of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, has fascinated and horrified us. It's been called the ultimate Hollywood mystery. But maybe the real mystery isn't who killed her. Maybe it's how her story became so distorted, and why, after all this time, no one has told it honestly. Because the truth is simple. Elizabeth Short was a victim twice. Once of her killer, and once of the way the world chose to remember her. I'm Esther Ludlow, and this is Broken, the Black Dahlia Murder, a Once Upon a Crime original series. Over the next 5 episodes, we'll uncover the truth about Elizabeth Short, the woman behind the legend, and explore how her story was manipulated by the media, distorted by time, and finally, reclaimed by history. In part 2, we'll go back to the beginning, to Elizabeth's childhood in Massachusetts, her dreams of Hollywood, and how she ended up in the city that would make her famous and take her life. Subscribe for the next episode and hear the real story of the Black Dahlia.